Dr. Steele's a cardiologist from the Ann Arbor area, and he's running for the 15th Congressional District, seat which is currently held by John Dingell and has been for over 50 years. Dr. Steele, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Fred. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Well, it's I looked at the map of the district, and you cover everything right from the borderline of Toledo all the way up through Flat Rock and Taylor, Michigan, Ann Arbor, a lot of places that Toledoans know and love, including Monroe and Dundee. They go up there to shop at Cabela's every once in a while. And we have a lot of people who work in Toledo who live in Lambertville and Temperance and Petersburg. So you'll be representing a lot of those people, and I want to get your thoughts on, because I've seen the other website, just who is Dr. Rob Steele. Representative Dingell must be pretty worried. They've started a website which is pretty outrageous, and in fact we talked about it this morning, saying that what it seems to be saying is that we don't want to elect someone who's been successful to go to Washington, D.C. Is that how you view this outrageous website they've started on you?
Yeah, absolutely. What they're interested in is avoiding any of the issues they can, Fred. I mean, there's one thing that we know that a lot of things have changed in the last 55 years since John Dingell was elected, but one thing that hasn't changed is that career politicians who have a lousy record for their constituents don't want to talk about their record. They'd rather make up stuff about their opponents. And you know, my parents and grandparents always told me, it's not when people are saying thing about you, it's on them, not on me.
Yeah, you have to look back at it. We have the same kind of situation going on down here, where Miss Capter, who's been a representative for some time, is running against a successful business person, and she's doing basically the same thing that John Dingell is doing to you. What points are you trying to make about Dingell in your race for the 15th district up there? What kind of things has he done in the last 55 years that you see as hurtful to that area?
Well, all you have to do is look at the ultimate outcome for Southeast Michigan. You were just mentioning a Detroit News editorial, and you know, our unemployment rate up here is in the 15% range in parts of the southeastern Michigan corner here, and we've had tremendous loss of jobs, of course, and we've had people leaving the state. Our state is getting older faster than Florida because there's nothing for the young people to do here, and that's the ultimate disaster, of course, having the educated movers of the next generation, you know, leaving us behind here. And so the key thing is spending. He's a career politician. Washington wants him back. He raises all his money from Washington, D.C., special interests and lobbyists. And, I'm getting my money $50 at a time from thousands of people. So it's a thing where they just don't want to talk about their lack of accomplishment and their ultimate end game here, which has been very, very unsatisfactory for most families here in Southeast Michigan.
Well, I know that one of the things mentioned in the Detroit News column that I read yesterday had to do with intelligence. It mentioned that as one of the three I's, and especially in the Detroit area. They are half the people up there are functionally illiterate, just by the numbers. Now, I know you won't be covering Detroit, but as close as you are to Detroit in the 15th district, what happens there certainly affects Southeast Michigan. You have some of the smaller automobile manufacturing areas and plants and things like that rely on Detroit to be a manufacturing center. So how do you change that? How do you turn that around to the jobs, for the next century?
Well, I think we've got a great mayor there who's working extremely hard. Mr. Bing is really passionate about helping the people of Detroit and making some decisions that are very tough and been ignored. I mean, that's one thing you can be certain of career politicians. Career politicians aren't that interested in solving any given problem. They're far more interested in just getting reelected. So they'll pretty much say and do anything to get reelected while they kick the can down the road, to the next politician. And it's just kind of a game like musical chairs of trying to say, well, who can be the last politician standing? We'll make them solve it after we've retired on our pension and all that sort of thing. So,
yeah, you're very right about that. We've seen that happen down here where we continue to put the same people in office year after year after year. We're talking with Dr. Rob Steele, who would like to be the representative for the folks up in Michigan in District 15. We'll ask him about some of his specific plans when we come back from the break. Guest this morning is Dr. Rob Steele, who's running for the 15th Congressional District up in Michigan. Tomorrow we're going to be talking to Robert Young, who's a candidate for the Michigan Supreme Court, as we give our neighbors to the north a little something as we get closer to the November election. Doctor, let me ask you a couple of quick things, because obviously you can't be nearly as evil as the Dingle website makes you out to be. According to it, you hate poor people, you hate elderly, you're all for Wall Street and the big corporations. And one of the more outrageous things, they've got a picture of you holding all this money up like you just won the lottery, which is so obviously photoshopped as to be laughable. But on a more serious note, they talk about your support for the privatization of Social Security. I wonder if you'd speak to that and whether or not that's an accurate statement from them.
No, that's a complete fabrication, as is most of the things on that website. It's really quite impressive. Our problem with Social Security is that the career politicians have stolen all the money out of the trust fund, and that's our problem. If the career politicians didn't take all that money to get reelected, we'd be in great shape, and there'd be a lot of money there to take care of everybody. But the key part about Social Security is Gallup polls show that the young people, people down in the 25 to 30 age range, Gallup polls show clearly these people don't expect to get Social Security. So that's where our problem lies. We don't have a short-term problem with Social Security. The people who are depending on Social Security now and in the near future, they're fine. There's not an issue with those folks. But there's clearly an issue as we look way down the road. And I've never talked about privatizing it at all. They just, they say because we've got a problem for the young that I want to privatize it. But I see absolutely no reason why the government can't run the program. The key thing is, though, is that money has to actually be there. It has to be in a situation where the career politicians can't say, hey, here's my personal slush fund to reelect me. I'll go ahead and use all this money because it's extra and just sitting there. The key is that these young people need to know that the money's going to be there and that it actually exists instead of a pile of IOUs like a Bernie Madoff situation.
Yeah, and the last story that I read just a couple of weeks ago was that Social Security, they were thrilled that they had numbers that showed it was going to be okay until about 2020 instead of 2012, which is that's no good to me. I'm going to need it at some point, and I don't even believe it's going to be there for me, and I'm already 59. So I have no trust in the government when it comes to Social Security.
That's one of the key things. I have no problem with the government running it, but what it has to do is be available instead of spent. And it's obviously laughable, them trying to say, man, I grew up in a small town of 8,000 people, got loans to go to med school, worked in a UAW plant, paid dues for a couple of years to get through med school, and a town of 7,000 people, and served on all kinds of nonprofit stuff and done that kind of thing. And my whole career, obviously, as a cardiologist, I spent all my time taking care of people pretty much, well over 50% of the time, taking care of people who are much older, who are reliant on Social Security and Medicare. So it's obviously just the line of attack that Democrats want to use on people running on the Republican ticket. But the real problem is the career politicians who spent all the Social Security money, and that's the top three issues we have right now is spending, spending, and spending, because these guys just can't control themselves. I mean, not only have they spent all the money for the future Social Security recipients, they spent all the money, period. I mean, our grandkids are going to get born with a credit card that's already maxed out, and that's just not appropriate. And people understand that. I mean, it's crystal clear to people right now that what's going on is not right. It's not, we don't have the money now. The grandkids certainly aren't going to have the money in the future. It's really a battle. I don't look at it so much as left, right, Republican, Democrat. It's really like who is the government for the people, or are the people for the government? Is free enterprise involved in the long run, or is it not? And that's really the big battle we have going here.
So would you consider yourself strictly a Republican then? Are you kind of a Republican leaning towards Tea Party ideals, or more conservative, libertarian? I mean, where would you fall on the spectrum?
Well, I've always been very independent-minded in my thinking. I've never been involved in partisan politics at all. I went to my first county convention in August, so I've not been involved in partisan politics on either side of the aisle. And certainly there's no question that the independents identify with me very definitely, because, a lot of the independents, what you hear about with the Tea Party, is what the media kind of tends to call them, is that they've not been involved either. They're just people who are saying, hey, these guys aren't reading the bill. When I go to work, I have to do what my boss tells me. The business owner has to answer to their customers. The only people that have no accountability are these people in Congress who vote on things without reading the bill. Imagine you tried to do that at work. Imagine that you didn't prepare for your radio show and you just came in and you were winging it absolutely and had no idea, and you didn't know your breaks and your time, and you weren't professional about what you did.
I wouldn't be here very long.
You would be fired in a hurry, and that's what everybody rushing into the political system now is interested in. They're saying, these people aren't doing their job. They're not even reading the bill. And people understand that's not right, and so they're ready to go and say, hey, let's give it to somebody who's had to be responsible, who's had employees, who's built a business, who's lived under the laws, and is going to pay attention to the people. The only special interest, everybody has a special interest in lobbyist representation except for the taxpayer. And what we need now is we need someone there representing the taxpayer and making sure that things are taken care of for the next couple of generations, and that they're going to get a crack at the great opportunities that the greatest generation gave me. And that's why I'm running. I mean, these vets went through all these things they've done in World War II and Korea, now all the way up to the current conflicts to provide us with an opportunity. And I just couldn't get to be 80 and look back and say, man, I sat down while they were stealing the future away from our kids, is what all these guys fought for.
All right, we're talking to Dr. Rob Steele, who's running for the 15th Congressional District up in Michigan. We'll finish up with one last section. We have a couple of minutes left to spend with Dr. Rob Steele, who's running for the 15th Congressional District up in Michigan. It starts at the border, goes up to Ann Arbor and jogs around a little bit, but includes a lot of our friends up in Temperance, Lambertville, Petersburg, Dundee, all the way up to Taylor, Tucky up there. Doctor, let me ask you, it looks like, at least from the information I've seen from WDIV up in Detroit, that you've got a pretty good chance, at least the poll they took, 47% of the people they asked said it's time to give somebody else a chance in District 15 and to move Mr. Dingell into retirement, which probably should have been done years ago. So what's the polling number showing you? What's the feeling like when you're out pressing the flesh? What kind of feedback are you getting?
We're getting tremendous feedback, and we have our own poll that we did a couple of weeks ago that showed the same thing. In fact, the gap was even a little bigger on the do you want to reelect him or give someone else a chance. And on our poll, it was 49 to 37.
Wow.
For somebody new, and on the DIV poll, it was 47 to 42. So we're getting a lot of the same feedback from different organizations, whether we paid for it or whether an independent organization paid for it. And that's what we hear. I hear all the time about people who appreciate his years of dedication in the past, but now they say, you know what, things are changing, and we need someone with a different kind of experience. It's the funniest thing. People try to say, well, I don't have any experience, and I don't know what they mean by that. I have a different experience. I mean, how would you go? How would you go for a job interview and say, "Yep, I've been in my job for 55 years. During that time, we've run up massive deficits. Everybody I represent's lost their jobs, and I've lived in Washington D.C. since I was 7 years old." I mean, that's not the kind of experience that we need right now. We need the kind of experience of a guy like me, who's just been a normal guy out there, worked his way through college, graduated from med school when I was 23, went out there, made my way, worked hard for 35 years, and have created jobs and taken care of people and know what it's like to have to function with budgets and these sorts of things. That's
that's the thing I don't understand about the, and I'm not going to give the name of the website they started, but the website that they started, it attacks you for being successful. It attacks you for having a nice house and a family and cars and making money at your chosen profession. It does nothing at all to point out the fact that, you had a union job, you worked your way through college, and not just college, but it takes a little bit of training to become a cardiologist, I would expect. And it's not like you stepped out the door, began your practice, and all of a sudden, bam, you're a millionaire. You created your own business. It just seems as though both in your race and in the race down here between Kafter and Ayotte, that the Democrats have decided to attack success as something that's bad.
Yeah, that's their modus. I mean, they certainly can't defend their record. My dad was a dentist. There was certainly nothing I could do by going to med school to step into his job as a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it on my own. That's the way people in the United States do it, and people appreciate that, and people understand that now the battle, like I say, it's not so much. It's do our grandkids get to have an opportunity at free enterprise and prosperity? at their own choice and with their own hard work. The United States has always had fantastic communities and churches and people that take care of the people who need it. We've had fantastic safety nets, but we still need to have a system that encourages people to rise to the level they want to rise to. I mean, they understand if they tax cigarettes and alcohol, they'll have people try to smoke and drink less because they can't afford it. But they, for some reason, think that they can tax work at high rates and that the people are going to continue to do it.
That's a great point. I've never heard anybody put it quite like that. Doctor, good luck. We'll check in probably at least one more time before the general election in November. Keep up the good fight. The website is robsteeleforcongress.com. Doctor, have a great day.
Thank you very much, Fred. Keep up the great work down there. You're swinging the bat and toting that barge.
Well, we're trying to connect every once in a while. If I bat 300, I'll be okay. It's Rob Steele for Congress.com. Steele is spelled Steele.